today. But what did they do? It's a very engineer-driven company. So they developed cars and did what they think is good for technical reasons, and they determined the cost. And then, of course, they added a margin, and then they set a price. So, it's this way. And Mercedes at that time was quite able to follow this approach because it's a big brand and they were successful, and so they could develop their cars, they could determine a margin, and they could set the price. And this is a requirement for this approach, that you are able to set the price. A couple of years later, Toyota introduced the Lexus, the first big competitor for the Mercedes S-Class. There were some more, it's the BMW from Audi, but in the US it was particularly the Lexus. And the Lexus was about 40 or 50% cheaper than the S-Class in the US, and they won market share over market share. So the competition was on the way. And then, of course, target costing was considered. Target costing has a different process and a different approach. The assumption is a company is not necessarily able to set price, but the price is determined by the market. The first thing to do is, when you introduce a product, you think about, okay, what price is realistic for what product? What are customer preferences? What are customers ready to pay for a specific product? So, and then, of course, you have the price, go down, consider a margin, and determine target cost. So, in this case, determine cost was the first step, and the price was derived from the cost. And here it's just different. The price was determined from the market as a given, and then cost which are allowed for a certain product were determined. But coming to the first items on this, think about what are influencing factors for pricing decisions. I don't know whether you have read the presentation so far. It's price, yes?
The customer?
The customer, of course, most important, but what else does determine pricing decisions? Yes? And? So, three C's. Cost, customers, and competitors. And the good thing about the cost is that these are mainly issues which are known by the company, while the other factors are not necessarily known in advance. Customers, in theory, in economics, in your basic economics classes, you learned about the price sales function. Yeah. It's nice to know, but the problem is in practice you do not know that function. Meaning, how customers react on price increases or decreases. This is unknown at the beginning. You can guess, but you only know after you have introduced a certain product or after you have asked for a price increase or decrease. And with competitors, yeah, you know in which market you are. Whether there are many products which are comparable and which have similar pricing and similar features. So if this is the situation, very competitive market, very similar products, then you can assume that you cannot change the price so much without having a big reaction from customers, because competition is big. What role do costs play when it comes to pricing?
I mean, we should consider a price that covers all our costs.
Yeah. Okay. We are in business administration, and business administration is how to generate profit. So we should generate profit, and profit generation means covering costs.
I think also the materials we're using for making the product. So it could be like a good quality sometimes.
Yeah, quality and cost have a relationship. Mostly high quality requires higher cost, yes.
But also like choosing, for example, of suppliers and so some, as it said there, like strategical decisions on how to like distribute your cost in regards of suppliers, of material, and all these kind of things.
Yeah. Yes, please.
Strategic decisions, maybe also, do we want to do a cost leadership and be as low cost as possible, or differentiation?
Yes, this is what I thought too, that it is very important in this decision, cost leadership or differentiation, which approach you apply. But I have read an empirical analysis about target costing, not too old, maybe 3 years, and that shows that target costing, the application of target costing, doesn't depend so much on the strategic approach. So even companies who are not cost leaders but differentiators use very much target costing. It was surprising for me, but okay, I rely on that analysis. But I thought so too. The same approach from my conceptually, cost leadership requires higher price sensitive and higher cost sensitivity than differentiation. Yeah, so these are the issues, and we have already discussed that short-term and long-term decisions might consider different costs, because remember we have discussed the term of relevant cost, and costs which are relevant for short-term decisions are all relevant for long-term decisions, but even costs which are not relevant for short-term decisions might be relevant for long-term decisions. Because on the short run, you have learned sometimes it's favorable for a company to offer a price which is below full cost because it generates a contribution margin. As long as it generates a contribution margin and you have a given capacity, you cannot reduce your fixed cost, so it improves the overall profit situation when you generate contribution margins, even not covering full cost. On a long-term basis, you have a problem. If you do not cover full cost, it is not a good way to think you can survive on a long-term basis, because somehow profits are essential. Coming to short-term decisions. We have discussed that with one-time only special orders and with product mix decisions, and long-term again requires the consideration of more fixed of fixed cost and of more relevant cost. So come to quite a short exercise. There is a Italian company, and what do they produce? Tomatoes. Yeah, they are producing 300,000 cases per month, and they have this cost schedule, variable manufacturing cost, variable marketing, fixed manufacturing, and fixed marketing. And they were asked to bid on supplying 150 cases extra for next month. Important is that they have free capacity. So they have a capacity of 500,000, but currently producing only 300,000. And the question is, what should be the minimum price under the consideration of this sum of pieces of information? Total fixed manufacturing would continue, whether to accept this special order or not, plus an additional 165,000 of fixed overhead will be incurred, only in the case they accept the order. Total fixed marketing and distribution cost will not change. There will be no variable marketing and distribution cost on this special order. Which price should Corleone bid at the minimum?